I sure am.
All right, cool. Well, folks, thanks a lot for joining us today. Welcome to today's WOW session on Atlas Sales Order Tab. We're going to go over a lot. Well, let me back this up, actually, wrong slide. This is what we want. Atlas is what we're covering today. Sales Order Tab as well as the Customers tab. My name is Ryan Burns, Director of Corporate Communication, and I'm joined this morning with Bill Balvans, our Manager of Learning and Development. And again, folks, thank you so much, as always, for taking the time to join us this morning. You might have gotten an email from us, from me, with an announcement about this being another launch call for Home Extend. We launched it. It's out and it's off and running. It's experienced tremendous success over the last few weeks, so obviously we're not going to do that again. We're not going to pre-launch something we just launched last week, so we're going to pick back up with our regular cadence and dive into Atlas. And our purpose today is really to make sure that you're as equipped to be as successful as possible, because, as always, our success is dependent upon your success. And when we look at our tools that we have for you, Atlas is one of the key tools that we want to make sure you know how to use and use well. So that's why we have Bill on today to work with us on order entry and service order delivery. So today we're going to provide ongoing training to help you win more, lose less, and get those deals done faster. And that's really where Atlas plays in. And if you called in about 15 minutes ago, you'll see just how informal we can actually be. We're family style, so we can be as interactive as we want, and we can learn from each other's best practices, ask questions, and get unfiltered opportunities to ask questions of folks much like Bill. Now, you've been on these calls before. You should know that *1 will bring you off of mute. The chat box is always open in the lower left-hand corner. I will monitor that for you and feed some of those questions to Bill. And let's dive into our content for today. Where are we going? We've got quite the landscape to cover today. Sales orders is pretty robust, and we will leave, hopefully, at the end of this call with a better knowledge of the capabilities of the sales order tab, how to enter those orders, how to edit the emails, how to add products. And if any of you have any questions or comments or best practices you'd like to share, again, come off of me. We'd love to hear from you. And we'll also touch briefly at the end on the service orders tab, how to manage the delivery of the services at the end of the call. So with that said, that's our trajectory for the day. Let's go ahead and pick it up with Bill. Bill, you have admin control as well, so if you want to dive into your content, you're free to do so.
All right, guys. Let's go ahead and start looking at our sales orders tab here. Now, the nice part about this is the way it's structured is you will put together a sales proposal first, and then you'll make that become an order. So you can use this tool, and we have some of our partners that do this, to kind of pre-sell the order. You can put together that proposal and show your customer what to expect, and then if they have any modifications to make, you can change those before it actually becomes an order and before it goes through the provisioning process. So let's take a look. This tab right here, Sales Orders, will allow you to have access to a lot of these widgets, these individual sections on the Atlas panel itself. So all of your proposals that you have will be in the Proposals widget. If you have special documents, they're going to be in this Document Repository widget. Any sales order discounts you've set up are down here in the Sales Order Discount widget. And then if you are pending approvals for discounts, they're over here. So very easy to see the different sections of this Sales Orders tab right here. Moving forward, we can make a new proposal with the New Proposal button. It's labeled pretty easy to understand right there. So as we click that new proposal, we're going to select whether it is a new customer that we put in new information or an existing customer. So it is possible, and it's really nice if you already have an established customer and they're building out a new location or they need to add new products. That's when you'd use the existing customer selection. But a lot of times you're going to use new customers. So you just go ahead and proceed from here. This opens up a new proposal window that allows you to enter. The first thing you're going to put in is to check service availability. We're going to check against a few different databases to make sure we can provide service there and make sure that we have the E911 capabilities built into the system. What's nice here, or what is good to remember is the email address you put in here will be the default user's email address when the order actually becomes provisioned. So if you are one of those partners that likes to set everything up before you take it on site, it's not a bad idea to put in one of your sales engineers or one of your service delivery person's email address first, because those volume of emails that come in as far as login credentials and things like that can be filtered easier than dumping them all to your client. All right.
Bill, I'm sorry. Bill, let me stop for a second.
Sure.
Lisa, I'm going to field Lisa's question real quick so she can jump off. Lisa, I've got your email address. Let me send you a repository of some of the recordings that we did the last couple weeks. That's my fault. I didn't update the automated workflow and email tool in this in Present Now. If you want, you feel free to jump off because we're going to cover Atlas the rest of the day. I do have several recorded videos and calls of residential I can send you for that. Yeah.
Hey, Ryan, this is Shannon. Hey, Lisa, this is Shannon Bruner. If you're looking for residential training, as far as onboarding, that's going to fall under the OWL session. So if you'd like to schedule some time with me, please let's get together after this call.
Sorry about that, Lisa. I'll take it. I'll take that one. Bill, go ahead.
Cool. So like I just said, the contact information that's entered here is going to be the default recipient for the communication. So you may choose to have one of your people, your own email address and things put in here to start. But you're going to want to make sure you put the correct address where the service will be. Once we advance from here, it's going to confirm that location. Like I said, it checks a couple databases to make sure that the address you entered lines up with recognized addresses, the U.S. Postal Service type addresses. You may find that you have spelled out the word avenue and it has abbreviated it, or other things that it's essentially the same address, it just looks slightly different. That's fine. What you really want to look out for is if it doesn't have an address at all, and if it's trying to force you to just use the address you entered because the database doesn't have any idea what you're talking about. At that point, you want to make sure we have the right address, and we're not going to be able to go too much farther until we get that address entered, and so we have an 800 number to call up here. But usually you're going to find that you have an address right here, and you will hit next to go to the next section of it. Well, I'm ahead of the PowerPoint, aren't I? So just a reminder, the address that you enter, if it doesn't match, verify using the U.S. Service zip code tool before you just go ahead and choose that address. You want to make sure you have all that correct. It's very hard to change it after the fact. Next part that we're going to go, once we have selected the address where it's going to be serviced at, we're going to add some products to this order. Now, adding products to it is very much like most e-commerce systems where you're going to have a cart that you're going to fill out by adding products to your selection. And as you see here, once we have added a product, we have all of those features, all of those services available right here. So things from call center user licenses to the Premier Precision Primer seats, or what you have named them in your own selections. You can order quantities of them. So if you have 15 professional seats to order, you can enter professional and then quantity up to 15, as long as the equipment will be the same for them, as in the same model of phone. You can also see manufactured retail costs for these items. If the customer is not going to buy an item, so if you're doing a bring your own device type arrangement, you would select owns the device, or if you're doing a VI present or a in-command only seat, you would do the doesn't need device selection, and you'll have other things to fill out later on that. So you need quantity. It will update your total in the upper right-hand corner, which is suggested retail price for the monthly recurring charge total. And as you see, we can add quantities and selections to fill out the order the way that we need it. You can even delete line items if you want them. So in this case, if we don't want the primer seat, we've decided that 14 seats is all we need here. We can go ahead and we can delete out the line right here. And you will select buying the device, leasing the device, owns, or doesn't need the device. Depending on the seat package, those options will appear for you. If you do have an owns the device, so it's a bring your own device, you will have to put that MAC ID in at a later step for each individual seat in order for the system to provision the service for that device. That doesn't need device will not appear if it is not a mobility capable seat. So if it is a primer or a precision seat, the doesn't need device will not even become an option. Next, we're going to look at the review the draft right here. We can see that we have our order in place. We have the information about the company main number. We have information about locations on the left-hand side, as well as different addresses. I'm going to back up here. For that company main number, you will probably be porting in the number, but if you are not, if you have a new location, you will select that rate center so that it can populate a DID for your company main number. So you'll have a number for service for your customer. By selecting the rate center right here, either by looking for city, state, and zip, easiest way to look it up, pressing Get Rate Center will give you some options for matching rate centers right there. As far as designer DIDs, it gets very difficult to have someone pick a DID that they want. A lot of people will want one ending in 00, or if they got a new business, they might want a particular combination. It gets very difficult to do that, so that's not something we normally will offer. And here's where you will see the transfer existing number, where you will do an LNP order for this main number. So they're going to bring in their existing phone number. We find that happens quite a lot, especially in established businesses. You will need that LOA and bill copy attached at the time of the order submission. We'll handle the porting part of it, but we do need to have that letter of authorization and the bill copy that is current when you submit that order. Otherwise, delays will ensue. Nobody wants a delay in implementation of their service. You can add notes. Now, this is a nice field here, and when I talk to people about notes, I mention that you add notes for the next guy. You don't necessarily put notes in place for your benefit. You put them in place for the next people who will look at it, or anyone who has to audit this or will take care of it later on. So good notes to put in here may be particular contact names, who the decision makers are if they're not on the order, or other specifics about this particular deployment. Matt Johnson has a good question.
Sorry, I was on mute, Bill. Yeah, let's preview this. Would there not be a way, or would there be a way to not assign a main company number and still build a PBX?
Actually, no. It's not going to be able to build that PBX without a 10-digit main number. Now, I don't think you necessarily have to build it in the exact rate center where it's going to be, and Shannon might be on, and he may be able to correct me here. But you may be able to pick an adjacent rate center, or even one, a little ways away in the same area code to build that temporary number. But it has to have a 10-digit DID before the system can build the PBX around it. That 10-digit number is going to end up being the enterprise locator number within the BroadSoft.
You're absolutely correct, sir. Or in the admin man voice, you are correct, sir.
So, Shannon, and Matt has a unique situation down there where there aren't a glut of DIDs like there would be in Dallas. So what would be the best advice there? Would you pick a different rate center nearby, or would you pick one from that rate center and then communicate with us, with the service delivery team here, so that we can age that number out and make it available faster once we do the port? What would be the best method?
Normally, it's easier just to go ahead and get a block of numbers from our provisioning team in the rate center that you want. Just in case you do want to keep that number, it'll be in line with the normal standard practices. Your account manager can arrange getting a block of numbers for you in any rate center that we currently have available.
Okay. So an LEU, yeah. So if you have a rate center that you continually struggle to have available DIDs, let your account manager know, and they have a way to communicate with provisioning to order a block of numbers so that doesn't continue to be an issue. Does that answer your question, Matt? All right, I'll take good enough right now. It feels like a Monday for me, so we'll go with good enough. All right, back to notes. You can add notes in here, and they are visible throughout the order process. We do have a selection here that is, you can toggle a compact view. Now, compact view is going to show less information. It's going to be more of a enumerated list rather than a line item list. So as you can see here, we show blocks. So we show all 10 professional seats, the precision seat, the premier seat, rather than showing 10 lines for that professional. We do have them bulked together, and this is a great way to look at the order on one screen, or 1.5 screens, rather than scrolling down through a massive amount of data to see things. I know that there's lots of people who live by the compact view. Now, locations. Locations are a neat thing within the way the PBX is built. So we're building an enterprise, and within it there can be separate locations. So you could have one location in Dallas, you could have one location in Richardson, another one in San Antonio. And by adding these locations in the first part of the order right here, it allows those groups to be built within BroadSoft as it gets provisioned. You would add new locations the same way you added the original location, so it's going to still do a validation and lookup. And remember that this email address you might want to keep as one of your own people, just to begin with, simply to cut down on the amount of emails that are going out during the provisioning process. Nobody likes to see the sausage being built, right? So this is a way to kind of disguise that a little bit. Again, you want to make sure the address matches. Don't just skip right through it. When we select our different products here, it's the same type of screen as we selected for our Dallas office. And now we can see both locations are listed on the left-hand side. These 4 address boxes are pretty important too. So we have service address, equipment invoice, service invoice, and shipping. So where the products will be used, where we're going to send the equipment, or where we're going to invoice for the equipment, where we're going to invoice for the service, and where we're going to ship the equipment are all listed here. I know a lot of our partners like to set up the equipment in their own lab first. They like to receive it at their distribution center or their office first and do that setup. So in that case, you would adjust the address on these to reflect where you wanted that equipment to go. All right, Don has a question.
Is there a way to change the company name on the shipping tab? Phone shipped to us. Yeah, Bill, I've heard that a lot. Not this particular question exactly, but as it relates to where the phone is shipped. So could you shed a little bit of light on this for us in terms of how to most appropriately direct the shipping and the naming conventions on the labels?
So what's going to happen is it's going to look like, in this case, Baker Botts LLP is going to be the business name, and because that's the business name that you filled out at the beginning. And you can adjust the address so that it will come to your location, but it will still be labeled Baker Botts LLP. And I have heard that sometimes either the postal service won't deliver it right, or in very small towns they'll look at the name and deliver it to the location irrespective of the actual address. What I've seen some people do is when you're filling out, and I'm going to back the tabs up a bit here, when you fill out this information for the company name, I've had a lot of places that will put their company name first. So Futiva-Baker Botts LLP. And so that way your name is attached to that company name as well, which makes it a little easier, makes it less stress on the UPS guy, and it also allows you to still know which company you're dealing with. So I have had people do that. Hey, Shannon, do you have a better practice for that, or is that the way that you would do it as well?
I think there's a good standard practice there. There may be some other ways you can manipulate it, but I think this is the easiest, best go-forward process.
Yeah, it's just to put your name and the company that you're working with here, or a short abbreviation or something there so that you know when the box comes to your office which client it's for. That's important. But then you can also make it easier for the shipping person. So,
hey, Bill, it's Janie.
Hey, Janie.
What I've recommended in the past is putting the customer name first, and then simply, capital C/O for care of, in care of. So
you would put Baker Botts LLP, care of, whatever.
The partner name, yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Hey, Bill, I'm curious. Where'd you get how'd you come up with the name of Baker and Botts? Because I used to work for them.
No, I made these up. No, I didn't make it up. That's a really large law firm that has multi locations here in Texas. I made these slides a long time ago, and I think Shannon, you might have given me the hint too. It's not an accident.
Oh, okay. I was curious. It looked funny.
All right. Did I answer your question, Don? Give you a couple suggestions there.
Yeah, good.
All right, so now since we made it another office, and you can see that we have our locations on the left-hand side. Yeah, Baker Botts does sound like
robotic pastry chefs. Well done.
You can see that the Houston office is actually highlighted here, so that's the one that we're dealing with our addresses and our product and our rate center. So we'll have to select a rate center for the products that go there as well. Again, we may be porting new ones in, but we can put this here. Like we learned a few minutes ago, if you're running out of DIDs in a particular rate center, let us know. We'll try to light up a few more. And then you'll just, if you selected that rate center, you'll apply, and you can select which ones get applied to that rate center. So it's all a very easy process. To conserve DIDs, it's recommended to choose a rate center rather than to assign DIDs. Yeah, there is a way that you can manually assign DIDs. Is that correct, Shannon? Or Janie? You guys have probably had a little more experience in that than me. I've always just used the rate center and had it pick DIDs for me out of the range, especially since a great majority of our services are going to be L&P anyway, or it's not really necessary to get particular DIDs because we're either going to change them or they're never going to give them out. So I just like to select the rate center, have it choose them for me.
I think that, Bill, that recommendation was in situations in where there were limited DIDs in a particular region or market.
Okay, cool. We can change service plans here. So we have selected, we are currently not in the compact view. You can't see it because it's just a little above our screenshot here. But we're looking at each item on its own. This is the not compact view. So we can make individual adjustments. You may have entered 10 professional seats, but now you realize that, or through talking with them, you want to upgrade one to a Premier. You can go through here and you can select those individual lines, because now we're looking at 10 seats rather than 1 of 10. And you can change it to where you want to select it. The compare button that we just looked at does show you the different services as a quick reminder. This is kind of a neat card built into Atlas where it will show you those particular types of services. So even if you have an order entry person that doesn't usually do your sales but may do a lot of the order entry process, that person has a reference right here built into this compare tab. And then you can enter user information here. You can change the user information in the customer administration portal once it gets built. Coming from service delivery, I know that's completely possible. I also know that it's a little easier to change it here, where you can type in the user information and the user's email address right here, and when it's provisioned, it will build those users into the CAP before you actually open it up.
Hey, Bill.
Yep.
Just to inject my experience, from a service delivery perspective, when you go from an order entry process to an entire vision of the management of the process, and you're going to talk about service delivery tab earlier, it is much easier to put in the information here if you sort of have that information versus doing it later. The multitude of steps that come later is a lot more involved than just doing it easily here, so the system builds them automatically for you. This is just my experience of producing the order itself.
And then the other side of that experience is a lot of times at the sales portion of it, when you're building this order, you don't have that information, and that's completely understandable too. It would be awesome, and in a perfect world, you'd have all that data, but sometimes you don't. So it is here as an option in case you do.
Yep.
Yep. You can select rate center phone number. Again, even within a location, you could have variable rate centers. And then you can add other add-on services like hosted fax. A personal hosted fax needs to be added to the user's service plan, which is why it's listed right here, rather than adding it as a generic user and changing the information later. This is the best way to add a hosted fax when you know you're building this user's information anyway. And then you can also add call recording right here. Now, call recording is a little different than hosted fax in that you can change that later in the CAP, but this is a good place to just be able to add that call recording add-on feature right here. Customers buying the device in our example here, if they weren't, and it, we'll stop for a second. They're buying the device here. It has defaulted to a 500, and I know we have another question here, so we'll hit that.
Yeah. You want to hit it now, or we'll come back to it?
Yeah, let's hit it now.
Okay. So, is there any plan to allow the personal hosted fax to me transferred from user to user? Yeah, got that. Sorry.
Transferred from user to user. Right now, I don't. I'll have to look and see if that's part of the roadmap for development. Right now, it's not possible to change that. Once that hosted fax is built in BroadSoft for a particular user, you can't change the user that it's assigned to. You can change the user information, so you could go into the customer administration portal, change the name and the email address, but you can't change that it's assigned to that user. I don't know, and I'll have to check with them. Look at the Q3 roadmap to see if that's on the agenda. It's a little annoying, but I don't think it comes to the make or break a deal type of annoyance, but it would be better if it could be pointed differently.
Hey,
I know in the past we have, go ahead.
I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's all right, go on.
Oh, I believe it's been requested. One of our service delivery guys has personally requested that, I know, so it has been submitted on the roadmap, like you mentioned. We're not exactly sure where it's going to fall in there.
Yep. In the past, we have Mac ordered a personal hosted fax to be added to someone, and then just removed the one that was assigned incorrectly. That's not the best way to do it, but it can get the job done. So,
Bill, I want to point out something too. We've mentioned about putting in orders in compact view. Whenever you do a compact view and you have all the users coming out as one name. When you do assign a hosted fax to a user and they're all coming out as one name, when you go to assign that user to the person who needs that, like your HR manager or something like that for that personal fax, that's whenever it becomes very complicated in being able to situate those features and functionalities to the individuals necessary. So that's kind of where we get into the, do you want to go ahead and just gather that information up front and put the order in and just submit it as an order with that personal, tag information already designated, without, or having to go through the entire system and figure out where that seat and feature is and get it to that person. Because at that point, it becomes a challenge to get the right phone, the right seat, the right phone number, the right packaging and everything on that one bundle to that person. So it's kind of a little bit of a challenge there. It can be if you don't plan things out correctly.
It certainly can, but the nice thing about Atlas is that once you know that they need the HR manager has to have a personal hosted fax, you can gather just her information. You don't have to get all of the other 20 people in the office. You don't necessarily have to probe them for all of that information up front. You can enter the 20 seats as professionals, then switch from compact view to non-compact view, or expanded view, and select the hosted fax and put in just that HR person's information here. So you can kind of do a combination, a hybrid of the two versions.
Very good point.
All right, so this will automatically suggest a device. It likes the 500. It thinks a 500 would be a good one for the Premier package. You may disagree. So you can go in and you can change the phone and select if it's a power over Ethernet or if it comes to power supply right from the select phone button on top of that order. And you select the phone and it changes it. Now we have we would have had the 410 if Ryan had updated the slide. The other thing is we can select information about, so you have your device comparison here. Again, this is a nice tool for those who maybe aren't the sales role all the time, but they do have to converse with the customer to talk about the differences. And then if you are doing a bring your own device, this is where you have to put in the MAC ID for the device right here, because the system cannot be provisioned without a MAC ID to build that service package around, or to build the service package to predict the MAC ID to get added to it. And this is where you'll put that in there. You still need to activate it, so this will not automatically activate your bring your own device, but it will put that in the portion of BroadSoft necessary to become activated. And then finally, if it's a VI Professional or a VI Premier, they don't necessarily need the device. They're just going to use a soft phone. You can also remove products if you want. You have ways to manipulate your shopping cart, and sometimes this does come from talking back and forth with your client, changing what you want, deciding that you have added too many or whatever. We talk a lot about the compact view, and I know Janie's on the line here with us, and she's a big proponent of the compact view because it is easier to look at larger orders. When you select that compact view up here, you see, like we looked at before, it's a very simplified method to look at it. You don't have all of the options. You don't have the ability to add, the hosted fax and call recording and things the same way that you do in the expanded view.
So Bill, let me ask you, if it has limited functionality, and that's probably not the right term to use for that, why did we instill or install a compact view functionality then?
That is an excellent point, and this is a relatively newer upgrade. I don't think we've had the compact view for more than 6 months, maybe.
Yeah, 2 quarters.
Yeah, it was brought up because when you have a large order of very similar items, it is much easier to look at it like this. So we are actually on our screen viewing 12 different seats. So 10 Professional, 1 Precision, 1 Premier. We would have to scroll down multiple screens to see 12 in the expanded view. And if all you're doing is verifying that you have the right number of seat packages, the right number of devices for them, this is a great view.
It really, just to boil it down for you, Bill, you're right. It comes down to usability, and it was something that the partners were really asking for. Hey, this takes too long to load, too long for me to scroll through, make it easier to use, so we made compact view.
Yep. And you can always toggle off a compact view if you need to drill down and add that one person with the hosted fax, just like we discussed a few minutes ago. All right, now it's going to calculate the shipping here based on that shipping address. You can select different carrier shipping method, and then your price will calculate right there. And then it's going to ask us if we want to proceed with the quote, with the proposal to put it all together. So up until now, we have been playing around with it. We have been able to adjust and manipulate the types of things that are on the order pretty freely. And so now it's going to try to put everything together and get us to an actual quote. So it will expand and show us kind of a summary, a readout of the types of devices and products that we are offering. And then we can, some places use this to create proposals, others use it to just create an order. So you do have each button the way that you do your business. So some flexibility, again, built into the system. You could make that proposal, submit it to managers or whatever layers of authorization you or your client have, or you can just go ahead and create an order right from here. Those proposal emails will be sent to, you can adjust the to and the froms for the emails so that the right people get that information. The right decision makers or the right authorization heads can see your proposal or your order. You can have files in your document repository. Maybe there are certain pieces of collateral that you'd like to build into your orders. Now, a lot of our partners have multiple services that they can offer. So maybe you've got a slick for business internet that you can put in there, or other types of managed services that you could offer. You could build those, you could upload those into your document repository and add them to the particular order. Maybe you have information about the phones or rebates or things like that. It can all be added as attachments.
LOAs, quick. I think the good starting point would be your LOAs and your quick start guides. It's the stuff we rebrand for you. Build that into your document library ASAP.
And then you can change the body of your email message. It will build a default message, and which you can of course adjust, and it builds in the particulars for the order, like the particular order number. But you can make changes here. You can personalize it, customize it, and make that a better business email, even starting from a template. You see your attachments right here. You could upload new documents on the fly, so even if they're not part of your document repository, you can upload a sitemap or whatever you've done for that location right here. And then you'll see that we built it as a proposal. We didn't build it as an order straight out. So you can see that we have the proposal right here. It has been sent. It would have to be authorized to become an actual order. And we can take a look by clicking the link, the order number link here. We can see interactions that we've had with them. They can view that proposal in their email. They can see everything that, if they like it, they can put a ring on it by hitting accept proposal at the bottom. Or they can decline it. And that takes you back to the drawing board where you can discuss with them. That opens up conversations for the sales call for what doesn't look right for them. The proposal in this case has now been accepted, so they liked it. And now we can go right here, see our information, and we would turn it into an order at that point, which will begin the service delivery process. Right here, we're going to create order. Again, you can create that without first submitting a proposal if you want to, depending on how you want to do it, and it may be a case-by-case basis. That order package can be sent via email. Again, you're going to be able to adjust the body of the email and any sort of attachment. So this is a different email than the proposal email would be, but it does give a lot of the same information. This is more of a confirmation email. So now we've got our order package set. You notice that our proposals widget in Atlas keeps updating with how this is going. This is really nice for sales managers and anyone who has a leadership role in looking at how sales proposals are going. Not only do you see the stage that it's on, but you see the last activity. So you know how it's progressing, and if anything, you can then take that to your salesman and ask them if there's been a snarl or a snag or something to delay why a proposal was put in 2 months ago, but it hasn't turned into an order yet. And so now we have our accept order, and now it's ready to process. So if you notice, the order number had a Q in it. And once it's become an actual order, that Q changes to an O. So it's an APO rather than APQ. That, again, as a sales leader, that gives you a quick way to look at all these order numbers and get an idea of the type or the process in the managing of that order where it has sat. All right, now that's creating orders here. From this point, it then goes to the service delivery side, where it will become provisioned, the LOAs will be put in, and we'll start to see information there. So I think that's on our next slide, isn't it, Ryan?
Man, yeah, pull that tab up, and that should it changed over for me, the service orders part.
Yep. So we'll cover this fairly quickly. The service orders tab, rather than sales orders, it's now become a service order. So it has different processes that we'll have to go through. The way Atlas manages this is through a series of gates and tasks. So you can see the gates on the left-hand side. Each one is composed of a series of tasks, like what we can see down at the bottom or on the right-hand side, of processes that will be performed to fulfill all those functions. Ideally, when everyone gets to the point where they can manage their own orders, these are the type of screens that you'll interact with to fulfill the order.
So any other questions as we start to wrap this up? All right. So now that we're exiting our call, let's kind of reflect real briefly on terms of where we were and what we've covered. Bill's walked us through the sales order tab, and hopefully you're leaving with better knowledge and insights into the capabilities of the sales order tab, as well as a quick spin through the service order in terms of managing the delivery of the service. At the conclusion of the call, I'll send out the right email this time instead of the same one with the land assessment one from Ryan Mann's call a few weeks ago. I'll have a copy of today's presentation, the recording, and as always, there are some tutorial videos on our on our YouTube channel that I'd love for you to check out. Over the next few weeks, it is June 8th. We've got a couple more to run through. We have June 22nd, we'll cover the Customer Administration Portal, CAP training, and on the July 6th, if you're not all out on vacation that week, we will cover premium content for your blog. We're going to have Kevin Gully back to talk with us through the Channel Fuel content program for you and your blog. So, Bill, any other concluding thoughts from you? Anything you want to wrap up with for us today?
I do not. I just happen to be a fan of Atlas and, of course, CAP, and it's kind of nice that these tools are evolving. These are, we take your questions, your concerns, they do get submitted to our development team, and I think that those of you who have been with us for a couple of years have seen these tools really grow and move with us as we become your partner in making your business a success.
Very good. Very good conclusion. All right, on behalf of Bill and Shannon, thank you so much for everyone for calling in. See you in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.